Hey y'all, how you doing? I'm back with another video here to spread the word again. Um, I have been I gotta turn my phone off. I've been making sure that I provide a word every week, but honestly, what I've been doing is sharing with you during my study time. And so today was one of those days where today was a day, y'all. It was one of the, I mean, so to I've been fasting, right? So I've been fasting for probably I've been fasting since Sunday. And that's not, I mean, there's people who fasted, you know 15 days, 20 days, 40 days, whatever. I've not gotten to that point yet. But so I fasted for 4 days, 4.5 days or so. And it took, honestly, just maybe yesterday for me to start kind of breaking through spiritually, because what I was trying to do was get past my mind and get past my flesh and things like that. And so you realize you go so long and things are so noisy, you go so long with your flesh not having been subdued so that you can hear, and a lot of things can get in the way of you hearing. And so I'm at a place right now where I'm really 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 trying to hear from God. And I got this feeling like I have been feeling over the past few, I don't know, maybe weeks, but it's almost like it's even more so now, right before I started fasting. But just feeling like something is amiss, like I'm missing something. There's something I'm not hearing. There's something I'm just not getting, or I don't know. And then just feeling really restless, and then feeling like something's just uh it just seems like this time is up. Like I've been here quite long enough. Like this it just seems like the time should be up right now. Almost as if everything is stale and stopped, and it's like uh, I can't go beyond right here. I guess there's a season that is ended. It's like this season's up. You ever gone through like the winter, and it seems like the winter is going so long? Here in Chicago, there's been times where winters literally start at the end of September, but it just seems like winter has been going on for so long. And you can get to February and March and be like, okay, like I mean, it just seems like the season should be up by now, but we're getting another snow day and another snow day. And that's kind of how I've been feeling. Like, man, it just seems like this season is supposed to be over. I've been here long enough, like enough, right? And so anyways, yeah, so I figured I need to fast, and I need to shut some things out so that I can hear, and so that I can see, and all that stuff. And yeah, that's been my journey. But so I decided, I was doing some studying, and I was going through um, uh, Ruth, and now I'm in First Samuel. And so really, I'm just kind of bringing you along during my study time, with my study time, what I'm studying, and any kind of revelation that I'm getting. Then I'm bringing that to you. And so I was reading in First Samuel, very first chapter. But it says, and I'm just going to start reading. And obviously, I don't know if you watched any of my videos or even all of them, but I usually, I read a little bit, but I always encourage you to just go read it, because it's like so good. But anyway, all right, so First Samuel verse 1, chapter 1 verse 1, it says, there was a certain man from Ramathaim. And y'all gonna have to bear with me here, because man, some of these names. A Zuphite from the hill country of Ephraim, whose name was Elkanah, son of Jeroham, the son of Elihu, the son of Tohu, the son of Zuph, an Ephraimite. He had two wives. One was called Hannah, and the other Peninnah, or Penina. I'm going to say Penina. Penina had children, but Hannah had none. Year after year, this man, Elkanah, went up from his town to worship and sacrifice to the Lord Almighty at Shiloh, where Hophni and Phinehas, the two sons of Eli, were priests of the Lord. Whenever the day came for Elkanah to sacrifice, he would give portions of the meat to his wife Peninnah and to all her sons and daughters. But to Hannah he gave a double portion because he loved her, and the Lord had closed her womb. And because the Lord had closed her womb, her rival kept provoking her in order to irritate her. This went on year after year. Whenever Hannah went up to the house of the Lord, her rival poked her till she wept and would not eat. Elkanah, her husband, would say to her, Hannah, why are you weeping? Why don't you eat? Why are you downhearted? Don't I mean more to you than 10 sons? And so I'm just going to stop right here for a moment. So today this was really hitting me, right? Because like I said, I've been fasting and just being restless and not willing to take silence from God. Just not willing to take silence from God, honestly. And you know, I guess, you know, just wanting to hear from him. That's where I was. Like, I need to hear from you. And so if it means that I gotta sacrifice in some ways, you know, then I'll do that. But I need some answers. You know, I need to know what I need to do and things like that. And so I was reading this, and I you know, honestly, I kind of felt like Hannah for a second, right? Because, you know, here I am, you know, I have these desires, and I'm longing for these things, and I'm searching God for all these things, right? And it's interesting because it seemed like to me that the wife Peninnah, it says that she you know, he had given Hannah a double portion, and then it says in verse 6, it says, and because the Lord had closed her womb. But I was feeling like Hannah because I was thinking, man, you know, had the Lord kind of closed my spiritual womb over the past year or so, right? Like, what had my spiritual womb been closed? Because I hadn't birthed anything. You know, I walked into this new year, and I'd started some things, but really I had birthed those in 2017. And so, you know, then the manifestation of those things came out in 2018. And so later in 2017, I had birthed them. But if you've ever gone through a birthing process, I mean, just spiritually, you know, it takes some inner strength, you know, to push through, because I personally believe you're pushing through forces of darkness, or you're pushing through opposition, if you will. You're pushing through to get to kind of open things up, you know, maybe like a birth canal spiritually, you know, if you will, and you're kind of pushing, and the spiritual canal is like opening, and you're pushing, and what you're pushing, you're pushing things to be birthed, if you will. And to me, it's like, so it says because the Lord had closed her womb. But again, I had felt like that's what the Lord had been doing to me. And then when it talks about, it says how Peninnah would her rival would be provoking her, and it says year after year, it says in order to irritate her. And then it says year after year, whenever Hannah went up to the house of the Lord to speak to the Lord, her rival provoked her, and she became discouraged, basically. And it just reminded me of kind of what I'm going through, right? Because here I am, you know, week after week, and I'm going to the house of the Lord, you know, although I'm doing what I'm supposed to do at home, but week after week I'm going to the house of the Lord. Week after week, I'm seeking God, trying to get answers. And week after week, you know, I have this opposition, these thoughts, these you know, fiery darts, if you will, coming at me, where my rival is kind of coming at me and taunting me because I don't have what it is that I believe God has promised me, and I don't have what it is that I desire. Right? And so this was like a clear depiction to me of what happens to us when we're looking for God, the promises that God has for us. God's promised them, and sometimes you've been waiting and seeking God and searching God, and things just aren't happening. You can go to church and you can hear so many great words, and it can almost make you feel inadequate, because it's like, well, what am I doing wrong? But the reality is you're not doing anything wrong. The Lord has closed up your womb right now, and for whatever reason, right? But God talks about there's a time there in Ecclesiastes. It talks about there's a time and a season for everything, right? And so I strongly believe that God will close up spiritual wombs and even physical wombs until the set time, because there's always, to me, like a set time that God does things, a set time that something needs to come into the earth, if you will, even down to children. Like there's like a set time that child has to come into the world, because there's a calling on that child's life, and what that child is called to do is supposed to be for a set time. So true, he closed up her womb, but he understood, I think the Lord understood, that it's just for a set time, because Samuel was to come not early and not late, but there was a set time that Samuel was supposed to come. And so I got the understanding that and I get this, right? Sometimes you get this. I got this the last time I birthed something, but you go through so much, and then you come again, and now you got to birth something else. And I know what it took out of me the last time I birthed some things, and then now, I gotta do it again, and it takes a lot out of you, right? And so to me, it's like the Lord knew he was going to open her womb. The Lord knows he's going to open your spiritual womb for you to birth this thing, but there's a set time. And so we get restless, and but I think, honestly, it's almost as if the Lord allows the provoker to provoke even more right when you're getting to that point. And that provoking, it is to provoke you. It's to move you to something, but it's to move you to seek God. It's to move you to a point of desperation with God. But it's not supposed to move you away from God. But the devil doesn't, he doesn't know that, right? So he thinks he has the upper hand, and he can come at you. His goal is to discourage you, to shut the thing down, right? To make you walk away from the promise, right? But God is like, but that's actually going to provoke that person. That's going to provoke the desire and the desperation that I need to give this person to do what I need them to do, so I can get them what I need to get them at a set time. Right? A lot of times, God promises you something. I mean, you can't be, just, I can have it, or, I don't necessarily need it. I mean, you can't be shy with the things of God. And I think sometimes the Lord promises us stuff, at least for me. He's promised me some things. And in the beginning, when he promised those things, did I want them? Yes, I did. But a lot of it, I was like, all right, cool. Let me go on and do what I got to do. And I'm just going to let the Lord drop those things on me, right? That was my mindset. But it doesn't really happen like that. At least it didn't for me. It's more of it took for me to get to a point of understanding that it just seems like this season is up. And to getting restless, and to get to a point where, I'm due to give birth to a new season or a new something, right? So I think in this case, this provoking was provoking Hannah to really, really, really press into God. And on the flip side of that, I think Peninnah was doing that because she was jealous. Isn't that like the enemy? He's jealous, right? I mean, God loves us. Jesus loves us, right? And Elkanah loved Hannah. And it's interesting because, in that time, barrenness was considered a curse by God. It was totally considered a curse by God. And although Hannah wasn't actually cursed, it was like, I believe Peninnah was coming at her as if to try to make her believe that she was cursed and less than, because she hadn't had a child yet. And that can be a discouraging thing, especially in a time where, barrenness is considered a curse and fruitfulness is considered a blessing from God. And who doesn't want to be blessed by God, right? Who wants to feel or believe that they're cursed, right? And so I think that that's what Peninnah was doing. She was provoking Hannah and telling Hannah that she's cursed and making her feel cursed. And look, I'm blessed, I'm fruitful. Look, I'm having kid after kid after kid, and look at you, you still don't got what you need. You know what I mean? And isn't that just like the enemy to do that? And sometimes he'll send people to do that to you, right? He'll send people to do that to you. They don't know that's what they're doing, but that's what he's doing. And then the whole point of it is to really just discourage you into thinking that God's not gonna do it for me. He's just not gonna do this thing for me. Like either I did something wrong or it's just not meant for me, right? But Hannah wasn't taking that. See, that's what I like about Hannah, because she wasn't taking that. She wasn't taking that at all. She was like, okay, all right, Lord, you know, and it was just plain as day. It was just, she fell into a point of desperation, right? And so that's what I think. But so even though Hannah wasn't cursed, she had the she was perceived. She could have been perceived that way. I had put a note here. Hannah was perceived and taunted as cursed, even though that wasn't the case. She was ridiculed and provoked as being cursed, right? And I kind of just went through that. God used that situation to get her to a place. But on the flip side of that, I believe that God used that to also provoke her to sacrifice Samuel to him, to give Samuel to him, right? You know, Hannah did, you know, she wanted a son. She wanted to bear children, right? And she wanted it so bad that she gave up the son before she even got him to God, to be a priest for God, to be used by God. And I think that was something that the Lord wanted from Hannah too. You know, I think he you know, he knows his children. I think he allowed Penina to push her to a point of such desperation that she would so much as sacrifice her son and give him to him, because the Lord knew that he had a plan for Samuel, right? So I know I kind of just kind of went through that for a little bit, but I'm lining this thing up with my life. You know, I'm lining this thing up with a real sort of a real situation that people go through, who are following God, who are like really going hard for God, right? Really going hard for with Him, really loyal to Him, faithful to Him, right? And so yeah, I think, you know, there's waves, there's ups and downs, there's different things like that. And so I'm just kind of highlighting where I am, you know, and just hopefully it'll help you. But it says in verse 9, actually I'm going to go to verse 10. It says, in bitterness of soul, Hannah wept much and prayed to the Lord. And she made a vow, saying, O Lord Almighty, if you will only look upon your servant's misery and remember me, and not forget your servant, but give her a son, then I will give him to the Lord for all the days of his life, and no razor will ever be used on his head. I don't think Hannah wanted a son because she wanted to nurture and raise a child and or anything like that. I don't think it was a natural desire to have a little person that she can raise and love on and things like that, and teach and stuff like. I don't think that was it. I think she genuinely wanted a son just to prove that she was not cursed. That's what I believe. I believe she was like, if you can just do this for me and prove that I am not cursed, because I know I'm not cursed. I don't know why you've closed up my womb, but I know I'm not cursed, and I need you to prove this and show this to especially my tormentor, the one who is constantly provoking me and thinking that she is this and that, and I am not cursed. I just haven't had a child yet. And that's a real thought too. You know, it's like, man, I'm not cursed. I just haven't gotten married yet. So I felt Hannah. I was feeling her right there, because even being like single, and don't even be a single minister. I mean, they looking at you like you an 8th world wonder. Maybe they have an 8th world, a 10th world wonder, right? I mean, they're looking at you sideways like, okay, so you a minister, and you're not married, and why you not married? You know, it's almost weird. It's kind of it's getting kind of weird because I'm having people I got proposed to twice this year, okay? And granted, none of them they're not guys that I would actually date. But in Cote d'Ivoire, an older man came to me and said, why don't you just come and stay here with me and be my wife? And we can go back and forth from here to America, and you can get, have all my land and my farms and stuff like that. And this man was adamant. I mean, he came back probably three or four times, asking me, if I would stay there and marry him in this village. I was like, no, sir, let me go, let me go find an exit really quickly. And then another young man, he's one of the workers, and he was joking, but he just got down on one knee. He said, "Will you marry me?" And then it's all this thought of, why aren't you married? Because it seems like you should be. But anyways, I got sidetracked. But I understand Hannah in that point. It's like, Lord, just could you prove to these people that I'm good? I'm not. But anyway. Let me keep going. So anyways, she asked God to remember her. And then it says in verse 12, it says, as she kept on praying to the Lord, Eli observed her mouth. Hannah was praying in her heart, and her lips were moving, but her voice was not heard. Eli thought she was drunk and said to her, how long will you keep on getting drunk? Get rid of your wine. And it says in verse 15, not so, my Lord, Hannah replied. I am a woman who is deeply troubled. I have not been drinking wine or beer. I was pouring out my soul to the Lord. Do not take your servant for a wicked woman. I've been praying here out of my great anguish and grief. And then in verse 17, Eli answered, go in peace, and may the God of Israel grant you what you have asked of him. In verse 18, it says, she said, may your servant find favor in your eyes. Then she went her way and ate something, and her face was no longer downcast. Early the next morning, they arose and worshipped before the Lord, and then went back to their home at Ramah. Elkanah lay with Hannah, his wife, and the Lord remembered her. So in the course of time, Hannah conceived and gave birth to a son. She named him Samuel, saying, because I asked the Lord for him. I just thought was so much in this, right? Because I'm reading, I'm thinking, when Hannah was there praying, and her mouth was moving, and nothing, and nothing was coming out, Hannah was birthing Samuel spiritually. That's what I believe. And like I say, this was hitting me because of where I was, and I was in full-blown spiritual birth mode today, right? And so and like I said, it takes a lot out of you, and I almost got this visual, like, I kind of see where I was today, right? And then I'm looking, and I'm reading how, she was in anger, going back and forth and just praying, and nothing's coming out of her mouth, and and she probably looked crazy. And if there was anyone in the room or a fly on the wall, they would have thought I was crazy, because man, when you are going for it, when you are going for the goal, when you are going for that high place with God, you really just have no it's like any pride, any all of that stuff kind of just goes out of the window. It's like there's no shame, there's no pride, there is simply, man, I don't care what it takes. I need to hear from you right now. I need to know what's going on right now. And what's interesting is when the Lord, as I'm praying and praying and praying, I can hear God saying, push, you're almost there. You're almost there. Push. And it made me feel like I was pushing through something. Like I was pushing through something. And every time he said, keep going, you're almost there, you're almost there, it was like I almost felt like I was opening something up. Like I said, a birth canal. That's all I can say, right? But it was like I was opening something up with every wail, with every push, with every, word that came out of my mouth, right? It was like I was opening up something so that something can come through, right? And maybe it's spiritual opposition, maybe it's forces. I don't know, but I think that Hannah birthed Samuel during that time spiritually, and that manifestation came after the fact, right? After she laid with her husband. But that's what I believe. And so and boom, yes, thank you, Lord. And so it's like confirmation for me, right? Because it's like, man, I literally just birthed something. And so now I just have to wait for it to like literally manifest here in my face. But I have totally birthed it, right? And then when I was done, I heard him say, well done. I heard him say, well done. And when you birth something like that, when you travail like that, when you go in like that, it takes a lot out of you, like you're birthing a child for real. It takes a lot out of you. And so I was spent when I was done. My energy level was really spent. But the Lord said, eat and rest. He said, but when he said rest, he was saying rest in him. And then he said, and get your strength back. That's what he said. He said, that's how I understood he meant when he said rest. He meant rest in him and just trust, right? And so he said, eat something, rest, and get your strength. And so in that sense, that's a physical rest. But anyways, so that's what I think was happening, right? And what's interesting is she said in verse 18, she said, may your servant find favor in your eyes. Then she went her way and ate something, and her face was no longer downcast. And so when I finished, my face was no longer like downcast. I was not in anguish. I was not birthing and travailing anymore. As a matter of fact, I was relieved. I felt like I had given birth to something. I felt relieved. I felt great. I felt just free. The love of God was just flowing. I felt content. I felt at peace, knowing that I had done everything I was supposed to do. I did everything I was supposed to do, right? And I think that's what Hannah was feeling right here. I think she realized she had done everything she was supposed to do. She prayed. She birthed that thing literally right in front of her husband, right? I mean, man, I don't know if I could go that hard in front of somebody. I don't know. I don't. It's not something that I'm too interested in figuring out. I kind of like it just being us, But she didn't care. She did what she had to do, and maybe that was the way it was. I don't know. But it says, early the next morning, they arose and worshiped before the Lord. So when she, after she ate and she was no longer down, so she was no longer discouraged, she must have rested, because it says they got up early, arose, and went and worshiped the Lord. And so, and then went back to her home, and then she lay with her husband, and then she conceived the very thing that she had been praying about. And so, it's interesting because she travailed, she birthed Samuel spiritually. She spent herself, she sacrificed herself, her strength. She did everything that she could to birth him, right? And then she turned around and she rested spiritually. She rested. She was at a rest, no longer discouraged. And then she turned around and worshiped God. And she worshiped him, right? And how do you go from being in that much anguish to now you are flat out worshiping God? How do you go from that much anguish in one moment and then in the next moment you're at peace? You know what I mean? It's interesting. It's interesting. And then it says, so in the course of time she conceived and gave birth to a son. She named him Samuel. And so, I guess, just kind of bringing this up to say, don't dismiss the restlessness, if you're feeling like, man, it's been so long, I've been waiting for something, and you're just starting to feel restless, don't dismiss that and be lazy with your spiritual disciplines and things like that. Really seek God to find out, has my season changed? Ask God for discernment to see, has my season changed? Because what you don't want is to let that moment, that key moment where God is really allowing you to feel a distance and feel that restlessness and that irritation. And he's allowing you to feel that way because he's like, look, I need you to come here. I need you to come closer. I need you to do something. I need to tell you something. I need you to pray. I need you to be desperate for this, right? And so a lot of times that's what God wants. And so don't let that moment pass, because that moment can pass, and then you just don't get it, right? You just don't, you don't want to go, and you don't want to let that moment pass, and then you end up in a season where it was in a place where your season was supposed to change, and it didn't, because you didn't do something that God was trying to get you to do to birth the next thing, right? The way he shows me is almost like you're in a dead place. You're just kind of like just sitting in a dead place, if you will. There's no, it's like desolate spiritually, if you will. I mean, like the way that I see it is almost like black and white. I don't know, but it's like a desolate place. And you just don't want to get there spiritually. You don't want to be long overdue in a season. So, again, I would just encourage you that, if you are feeling that restlessness, if you are feeling like it's just been a long time, it's been a long time, and you need to hear from God, put everything down for him. Put everything down, draw nigh unto him. If you need to fast. I mean, I probably exercise every spiritual discipline I could have today. But again, it's that discernment of knowing that my season has changed, or that I'm at the end of a season. That's what it is. It's not like it's changed, but I'm literally at the stop point. Like I couldn't stay and not do what I was supposed to do, because I'd be just still sitting there. And then at that point, things are delayed because of me. And like I said, there's a set time, and we don't want to delay God's timing. We don't want to speed up his timing. And I know we hear that a lot. We can't speed up his timing, but we can delay his timing. And a part of the way we can delay it is when we get lazy spiritually. And I think a lot of the times people don't get through their seasons, and they're not even able to discern their seasons, because they get lazy, or and then discouragement. You have you have your rival kind of coming at you 24/7, right? Anyways, about this thing that you're wanting. And so the longer you allow that, and the more you allow yourself to be discouraged, and you don't rely on God, and listen to him, or pay attention to what you're being prompted to do, then you'll get to a point where the enemy will wear you down, and you'll be so discouraged, and that you don't feel like doing anything. And a lot of times that's what he wants to do, is get you to a place where you just don't feel like doing anything, and your flesh, if you allow it, it won't let you do anything. And then as long as you're like that, it gives the enemy the permission to kind of sit on you, and well, that person's not going to get up and do anything anyways. They're totally discouraged anyways. I mean, they could try to pray, but we can kind of sit here, because they're praying, but they're not doing anything. So we're just going to sit here. You know what I mean? But anyways, yeah. So just reading through Hannah, just going through this little season, just going through this little birthing process. It's interesting. It's on the one note, it takes a lot out of you, but on another note, that whatever it is that God's trying to get to you, whatever that may be, many times we know what it is. There can be times where we don't know what it is, but that you've done what you're supposed to do. And Hannah did that. She did that unwavering. She didn't let her rival take her away from God. So okay, so the steps that I would say take, right? If you feel like you're in that place, if you feel like you're literally in that place where it just seems like the season has changed, like totally changed, right? So what I would say is fast. I would seek God, ask for discernment, see if that if you really are at the end of your season, if you're at the end of something, if it's time to kind of take a step back and allow him to show you, but seek him, right? Because what you don't want to do is fast and tire yourself out when it's not time to birth it or move or change seasons. So, I think I might have been in this season for a little bit. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, some things occurred in my life over the past few months. But, I don't know. Maybe that was the same season. Either way, it's over. So that's all I care about right now is it's over. And so I'm ready to move on to the new. But ask God, seek him, get discernment, understand where you are right now. So what I had to do was kind of turn off a lot of things, turn off social media, turn off all these things, so I can kind of get close and figure out, like, man, do you really want me to fast? Because I can only fast in his strength. It's really hard to do it on my own, in my own strength. I mean, I fast from 6 to 6, but it's not like, that's not really a big deal for me, because I go to bed very early and I get up very early, so it's kind of okay. But so ask him, and then if God's like, yeah, I want you to fast, fast the way he tells you. He started me off. I had 2 meals on Sunday, and it was just vegetables, and then Monday I had 1 meal, and it was just vegetables. It was yeah. And then Tuesday I had a little fruit and 1 meal, just vegetables. It wasn't enough to sustain a person nutritionally, to be honest with you. And then today I had no meal until maybe like an hour ago. And I honestly, I didn't even need a meal, because I was so high in the spirit. God kept just saying, go higher, 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 higher. And I was so high spiritually that I was sustained. I didn't even need any food. But it wasn't until after I finished birthing whatever that was, that it was like, all right, yeah, I should probably get some energy, get some strength back, eat something, and be obedient, because he said eat something, right? So he knows what I need. So yes, so fast and pray and really be intentional about seeking him. Like, search out for him, seek him. I mean, don't take no or distance for an answer. I mean, go into your word every day, pray every day. You kind of sometimes have to push past your flesh, and it's almost like a sacrifice. Like, you're sacrificing for this prayer. So pray and pray during this fast. Study, go into the word. He will speak to you through this word, and he'll let you know where you are right now. And that's how you know what to do, or even that you're on the right path. And so, and listen for him. Listen for him. Pray and listen for him, and let him guide you through that fast. Let him guide you to ending the fast. And when it's all said and done, rest in him, trusting and believing that you've done everything that you can do, and there's nothing else that you can do, and you can't even work hard for this thing. It like, it's done. You just need to rest and wait. And then even that, and then after that resting, worship him, praise him, and you will. I mean, it wasn't a sacrifice at all. It was a freedom, actually. I felt very light. I felt very free. I felt clear, and sure, almost like Hannah. Like, I know I did what it was that I was supposed to do. And be patient with God in this process, and be good to your body in this process. Be good to yourself in the process, right? So I didn't work out over the past few days. I mean, I did Sunday, but and I think that's why the Lord was like, have two meals, just because I had worked out. But I didn't work out the rest of the days. I pretty much took it easy, and I took the train to work, to school. But and that can be kind of a little taxing when you're really low on energy, right? And you're just kind of like in the spirit. But be good to your body, be good to yourself, be good to yourself in the process. Trust God, and just trust and believe that you've done everything that you can do, and that's all that you can do. And then rest in that, right? But if you want to know more about Hannah, if you want to know more about this, you can go and read and probably get some other revelation out of this your own self, right? So I just went through chapter 1, but you can probably go through chapter 1 and find some even better notes and understanding from it. So yeah, I would just challenge you to go and do that and read it. And if you do come up with any new revelation or anything like that, let me know, because I want to know. I want to know all about the revelation. Okay. All right. Yeah, other than that, I was going to post this for Sunday, but I'm just going to post it today because I just don't think I should wait till Sunday. Maybe somebody needs to hear it right now. Maybe that's why the Lord prompted me to put it out right now. So anyways, I love you dearly, and I've been talking about 10 minutes too long as usual. So have a great rest of your week, and I'll talk to you Sunday probably. Yeah. All right. Take care. Bye.